so many designs are built around constraints. Take this building project, for example. There's a freeway either side of it constraining how it can be built. But creative people just love to have the freedom to do whatever they want. So what happens when you give a yacht designer complete freedom to design how he wants? And then what happens when a customer buys that yacht before it's finished and could theoretically take all the design control back again? So Mish, what's it like having free reign over kind of the design aspects of a project? You had the external and the internal to sort of design on this boat.
A blank canvas is probably ideal because sometimes you can get hemmed in by constraints when you have to keep an element of the design.
Yeah.
But a blank canvas means I can have continuity through the boat. So if preserve the vision from what's above main deck to what's below deck, the exterior, I can have some synergy between the elements. It's ideal.
I was fortunate enough to have Misha roll in and was able to deliver the help we needed, and it started a very strange moment. I really started off, I needed a new roof. I thought I needed a new roof, ended up with a new boat. It went from a new roof to Misha laying on the bed and saying the lighting's not quite right on this boat and we need to do this and do that. And 2 years later, and a whole new boat, Misha could say, my work is done.
Sort of Bruce just said, you know, do what you can, let's push the boundaries. Did you sense any risk there, I suppose, in the design process?
It's sensible caution.
Yeah, right.
They say free reign and you go, okay, how far can I take it? But you have to have restraint.
Yes.
And they have to like it. And
you're still mindful there's someone you're pleasing at the other end in a way.
It is, but in this sort of market where it's custom production boats, you are designing more for the masses. Whitehaven do customization per customer, but ultimately when people go on to validate the boat, the brand, the design, you are trying to please a broader market.
Yeah.
And that's the risk.
Yeah,
because
sure.
go too far into one direction and you might polarize the other sector of the market. So that's probably the biggest risk for this size of boat.
Yeah. Now, when you had this project on your hands, there wasn't an actual customer at the beginning, but along the process, a customer came along and purchased basically the boat and theoretically had the rights to say, I just want to scrap this. I want to change everything. Yeah. But what happened? Did they sort of like your designs, or?
Well, luckily, the brief matched the owner profile.
Right.
There wasn't terribly many changes. There was some changes with window furnishings, minor things in terms of what was in the cupboards.
Yeah.
But on a whole, they were happy.
That worked out well then.
So that's fortuitous.
Yeah.
I mean, with Whitehaven's offering, that customer could have come along and rearranged the boat.
Yeah.
Correct. If they wanted to, Whitehaven would have done it. So it was lucky for us that the vision got preserved, the boat got built, and the owner bought it pretty much how we intended it to end up.
You've also got some pretty good 3D modelling and rendering sort of software and computers at your office too, so that helps the customer to really see what it can be. Like, the better the software and the programs, the more they can visualise.
Software in this day and age is very good. It's whilst it's a useful tool for builders, it's even more powerful for communicating to new clients and customers what the boat will look like. And that was the way we overcame the hurdle of it's an unfinished boat. What finishes and materials are we putting in? the render solved that.
Yeah.
Even down to the lighting. So whilst the boat structurally and mechanically was almost done, a lot of the fit out wasn't done, and that's how we overcame that.
And that's what they really would have wanted to see too,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
it's a good tool.
Especially if you're creating a bespoke item, then there's even more need for 3D, because every customer is going to have something different that they're incorporating. So you can't just bring out some stock photos to
Yes.
show, they might pull an element, like you've got feathers encased in resin.
Yeah.
You need to sort of be able to maybe put that into a program and show them what
Yes.
it could look like, sort of thing. Whereas a lot of brands can't do that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, try to use every tool available to us to communicate that intent.
Yeah,
and there's good ways and difficult ways to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've just got to use anything in your arsenal.
Yeah. Do you have a most enjoyable aspect about this process? Like from beginning to end, do you have a part of it that sort of really stood out to you? Like it might have been a design element, it might have been a part of the process
The most
you enjoy the most?
enjoyable part is there's a few steps along the way. I love the brainstorming part and the research part.
Yeah.
So Bruce and Julie said, Misha, we want to do a long roof and various other elements. Can we accommodate this? And so my first step is to go, okay, who else does this size of boat? I research competitors, I research the market, and then try to find out what can we do differently.
What's the point of difference, basically?
Yeah, point of difference, and sort of build together a strategy from the research.
Yeah.
And then throughout the process further along, I really like the one step where I've got the research done, I know what I want to do, and that initial step of raw creativity. The brief was a long roof, so very difficult to start a long roof. So I actually put some things above the roof to draw the eye up, give it more balance. So the long roof, it's easy to put just a flat roof and no visual interest. So at least I get to look at something through the roof, breaks up the monotony of a large shade.
But still tinted so you don't get too much
Doesn't
harsh.
get the harsh, because a regional specific design means for Australia we need a long roof. We all get sunburned otherwise here. If this was for northern Germany, different kind of fish, everyone's craving the sun.
Yeah.
So different design approach in that regard.
Yeah.
Then as we step in, there's a few more considerations more for Australian environment. We have UV stable materials used outside. Typically you'd have a teak table, but it doesn't last long enough. But I did put teak in it, just underneath.
Yeah.
It's just those little pieces of joy, and then I collect them together and map out the bigger picture.
I guess it's almost like a treasure hunt in a way, because you're looking for what's going to sort of speak to your soul when you're designing. So you're looking for, like, say, different elements that you haven't seen them yet. But when you do find them, you're just like, wow, that's got to be something I use, or that's...
Yeah, well, the master cabin was a good example of, had designed the space, and deliberately, when you go through the boat, it's the end of the journey, so it needs to have an impact, a climax to the journey. And I sort of went, okay, I need something on the bedhead. And in my mind, I went, artwork, something luxurious that will elevate the space. And I thought a light, and then the thought process. And over a few weeks, I was thinking, I need something there, but I don't know what it is. And then I sort of percolated the idea, and then one night I got up at about 2 a.m. and went, I know what I need to do. And I just started sketching.
Yeah.
And it's something, that brief moments of insomnia, and these things come out, and then I go, done. 20 minutes later, back to bed.
Sometimes the most inopportune time.
Yeah, it's hard with small children when that happens, but I kind of...
You can't let it go, otherwise you won't be able to, it won't be there in your mind in 6 hours time.
It's funny, it's weird how a designer mind works sometimes. My greatest fear is to forget an idea. I don't know, that sounds odd. That's why I'll get up and I will draw it and then go back to bed, because the alternative of going back to sleep and forgetting for me is scary or undesirable. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
I can understand that. So with the exterior of the boat, what sort of inspiration did you draw for some of the design elements for the exterior?
initially the brief was for a long-range cruiser, and so I got a love for automotive, and I'm thinking, what vehicles are long-range vehicles?
Yeah.
So it's another genre of transport design. So I'm thinking long-range, Range Rover. And so I admire Range Rover's design, their design team, their process. I used to work with ex-Range Rover designers in Europe.
Okay.
And one thing that struck out for me in Land Rover is it's a very high volume transport vessel or a car. How do they make the volume look smaller?
Yeah.
So when you get in there, you want it to be big, but you don't want it to look like a box.
Yeah.
They're very clever in how they do it, and there's little tricks that they do to trick the eye into slimming the car down. And
Yeah.
so I kind of went, I could slim this vessel down because the long roof was the hardest thing to overcome for me. And so I used various style lines, different geometry, tricks that would draw the eye in a direction to hide the fact that we've got a very long roof.
So there'd be quite a few people that wouldn't, when they look at this boat, wouldn't recognise that some design elements have been taken from the automotive side of things, and there
Yep.
may even be sort of aircraft influences or
Yes.
into
Yes.
the boat.
Well, the mast particularly,
I noticed that.
because that's a super yacht drawdown, because you tend to put some effort into designing a mast on a super yacht.
Yeah.
On a boat of this size, you tend not to do it, but I still had instruments and navigation equipment that need to be placed somewhere. And it's funny, I didn't want to ruin the arch, which I
Yeah.
put a lot of effort into, so I said I'll put a mast on, because I have a large roof, and it's all about balancing the proportion of the object. The mast just seemed to improve the lines and draw the eye up,
Yeah.
facilitate instruments and other things to put up there, integrate lighting for reversing into dock. So there's a lot of practical benefits of it.
Now, when we go to the interior, did you sort of have a base foundation of where you were going to go with the interior? Was it sort of inspired by anything, or did you just really start from scratch with one material and start building on top of that?
When I do my interiors, I build.
Yeah.
So I'll work out the dominant in yacht building. You'll usually, and it's in this size, you'll usually have a timber component, a high timber component. So what's my timber choices? Then I'll get the floor, and then I work my way up.
Yeah.
So there's some things I can't change.
Sure.
The choices of timber were a certain range, so I sort of, by elimination, all right,
Yeah.
I'll go that timber, I'll work on that floor, and then go up from there.
Yeah.
And so, and I tended to work from the cockpit forward,
Yeah.
because all these zones are connected and they're related. I can't do one independent of the other, otherwise they fight against each other. It's just a way I do it, I guess.
One of the really interesting elements you've drawn on in the interior is that product Corian. So pretty much like the table that's in front of us here. I mean, it's got some interesting design elements. Apart from Corian being a fantastic and interesting material in itself, looking very much like marble, you've backlit a lot of it, and
Yeah.
like, I know I've seen this table at night time, and we've got some sort of hexagon shapes that light up from inside.
Yeah.
But people think it might be projecting from the roof, so you catch them looking up.
So I wanted to create interest, engagement.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the ultimate a successful interior is if your occupants engage with the space or react to the space favourably.
Yeah, right.
Things like that is, I like to introduce a bit of playfulness, because it's fun. And everyone interacts with it, looks at it, scratching their head. Where's it coming from? They look at the ceiling, they look at the table, and I get a bit of a kick out of them trying to figure out how it works. And then ultimately, it's not about being right or wrong or more knowledge, less knowledge. It's the reaction they get once they discover it is actually a bit of pure joy.
Yeah.
Just like when a child discovers something for the first time. I find that once the boat reveals itself more,
Yeah.
people that get on board enjoy it.
We're all big kids at the end of the day.
Yeah.
People still love mystery and intrigue, and something fascinating. And I think even like magic, we're still drawn to it as adults in a way, because we don't get that boring that we don't want anything interesting in life. So I love how you sort of incorporate those things.
You take cars, aircraft, any transport design, and they are either they serve a purpose, but they are joy machines.
Yeah.
in many instances. So
Yeah, I
you'll
like
have
that.
a truck that does a purpose, but you have a Lamborghini, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
correct.
we try to introduce some fun into the design.
We're not happy with just the practical, are we?
Sometimes we have to, but other times, yeah.
So Mish, what other sort of elements would you say are unique to this class of vessel? Like a 61 footer, you don't always see people go very luxury in this sort of size of...
Yeah. So the luxury is in the overall appearance, but luxury sometimes is in the details, down to leather fronted drawers and using high-grade Italian leather. The other one I'm pretty proud of because I haven't seen it in some of the super yachts, and that is the jewelry box wardrobes, as I call them.
Yeah.
All it is a treatment inside the wardrobes that sort of is akin to Louis Vuitton luggage. That just a bit of texture, some lighting for practicality, but it sort of tells the clients and the customers that we are considering their use throughout the boat. So it's not an afterthought, it's deliberate, and we care about the detail.
Yeah. I also know that like you're a big fan of lighting, as
Yes.
I am. we both hate just full blown cool white lights, fluoros on, everything lit up.
Yeah.
I mean, creating atmospheres, I just believe is important, and I think you do too.
It's without the lighting, you don't have you're missing a notch to elevate the space.
Yeah.
Good lighting execution, and the interior goes up. If you look at it now, it's got another personality. It's its nighttime personality. I love the lighting effect that you get on board. So you can have just the courtesy lights on and still see outside the harbour. I mean, it serves a purpose. When you're on the water, you don't want to ruin your night vision. And right now that the wind looks like to calm down, is a beautiful time to cruise.